Dylan Hartland alongside Mr. Alec Avierinos this morning, live in studio with me once again. We're doing the health and wellness program. Welcome to the show once again. Alec, it's good to have you here in studio with us.
Thank you, Dylan. It's a pleasure to be here and with the listeners too. Thank you.
Yeah, it's always an interesting one. We get lots of comments about these programs, Alec. Many people really do enjoying hearing your knowledge and your insight into these different topics we've been speaking about. Today, we're speaking about change, right? I'm going to kick it off straight up. You need to have an open mind and a teachable spirit towards change, right? A willingness to take action in your life and to experiment. And we're going to be talking about mentioning two types of people. If we look at scripture, John 10 verse 10 speaks about how the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, right? And God says, I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. So these two different types of people are a person who has a growth or change mentality. So a person who's open-minded in the sense of who strongly believe through personal examination and application, their lives can truly be transformed. The second person, almost a contrast to the first, those who believe they have very little or no control over their internal state or surroundings. So more of a victim mentality is that second individual over there. Now, Alec, to kick off the show today, we're chatting about change and how important change is in our life and how proactive we need to be in this sense. So you take the wheel now. You're the expert in studio over here. I'm going to hand over the reins to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dylan. I think just to start off picking up on your question before the show around willingness to make mistakes. And if you are not prepared to take a chance, then you definitely aren't going to change.
Right.
Because we're very stayed in our ways. And the best way to sort of look at where you're at is to look retrospectively back at your behaviors and what you've been doing, which have brought you to the point where you're at now. So today, when we're speaking about change, it's coming from the point that if you don't do something proactive to change, and Almighty Warriors is all about focusing on spiritual nutrition and exercise, and in all three areas, you need to be able to evaluate where you're at honestly, and score yourself now while we're talking. Give yourself a subjective score out of 10 for each of the topics that we are on. And then in Almighty Warriors, we've got short courses that you can do on each of the three. And we recommend that you tackle the one where you score the highest first. That gives you the opportunity to actually gain some traction, make some headway in the area where you are strongest first, and then move on to second strongest and third. But that way around, you can prove to yourself that you can change and that you can make those changes. So we're all about trying to fix the cause and not treat the symptom. So we need to sort of drill down and ask ourselves some questions there. Because, if we don't make time to look after our wellness, we most certainly are going to be confronted with illness. And that is not what God intended for us. So I'm going to ask you a couple of spiritual questions that you need to answer for yourself. So are you content at the moment with spending only an hour a week in church on a Sunday? Or do you actually spend time daily in quiet time, in meditation, Bible study? How good are you at actually applying spiritual truths from the Bible into your life? If I just diverge a little bit quickly there, Ephesians 4 verse 1, it says, walk worthy of your divine calling with behavior that is a credit to God's service. So just think about that for a minute and then give yourself a subjective score out of 10. On the nutrition side, it's actually a little easier. There we again talking about your height to waist ratio. Is your waist half or less than half of your height? So you take your height in centimeters, check the circumference of your waist, and if you are less than or equal to half your height, then you're in a relatively good space as far as your eating habits and your fat is concerned. How frequently do you snack? And are you prolonging your eating or your fasting window? Are you actually in control of what you eat, when you eat, and the quality of what you're eating? So are you eating a lot of sugars, complex carbs, which you shouldn't be, or are you predominantly eating proteins, veggies, fruits, and whole foods that are as close to their natural state? So again, just with those couple of questions, give yourself a subjective score. And then on exercise, are you doing cardio on a daily basis? Are you purposefully going for a walk, a run, a jog, doing some swimming? Maybe a little bit more difficult to do swimming now in winter, but yeah.
Yeah, it might need a little bit more motivation.
Yeah, so and then you need to be doing some sort of resistance training, gym, weights, bands, something that will actually stimulate muscle growth. And you need to be doing that for half an hour, 2 to 3 times a week. So it's not a big ask, but where are you at? And out of the 3, which are your strongest areas? With Almighty Warriors, if you go onto our website, there's a link to our YouTube channel where we've got a lot of informational and instructional videos from professionals from all over the world. Just a collection of really good YouTube informational videos. But then we have 3 free short courses, and we have 3 paid short courses as well, where you can proactively get stuck into doing something about working on your health. And then the ultimate is from our side, is to tackle our 10-day challenge, which is a 3-in-1 challenge where we do all 3 simultaneously. And the objective there is to prove to yourself that over a 10-day period, you can make significant advancements and you can change. A lot of people, especially once they're in their 40s and 50s, they sort of feel like it's too late. It's never too late to change. Your body is continuously regenerating and in a ability to improve itself, but it is directed by what you do. So the healthier you eat and the more control you are over your eating and fueling your body, the better. The more you are in control of your exercise and the more active you are there, the better. And yeah, so our objective is to try to help you improve and to fix the root cause of the problem, as opposed to treating symptoms with pills and procedures. So that's where we're at with sort of the intro, if I can call it that.
Getting by all of those very crucial things that we've pretty much been discussing over the past few weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So over the last few weeks, we've looked at 8 different topics and subjects in more or less depth, establishing that our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Is he trapped in your body, or is your body able to be used by him to glorify the Lord and to be of service to others? So I thought today we would just jump into some tips. So I rushed through the intro bit a bit, but spiritually, I'd like to just give a few tips there. And that is, you really do need to apply and act on the biblical instruction. And if you want references for that, you can go to James 1 verse 22 or James 4 verse 17. But basically they're saying that the Bible is a call to action. So reading it and not applying it to your life is useless. And then the next one I want to pick up on is that you really do need to love yourself. We're called to care for and nurture our bodies as Christ does the church. And he died so that we can live. He died to bring us an abundant and victorious life here on earth now. So it's not only about the afterlife and making sure you go to heaven when you kick the bucket. It's about being useful and of service here on earth now. And then, I've found myself that the YouVersion Bible app has got tons of really good content material for doing Bible studies, daily devotionals in the morning. You can download any version of the Bible. It's a brilliant way to actually get into it. And then if you aren't part of a home group or a church, I think it's important that you surround yourself with other believers and that you can have those interesting conversations. And then you really do need to accept and take ownership of where you are at today. So in order to be able to change and make the changes needed going forward, but you need to be kind to yourself and forgive yourself. The Lord has forgiven you, and it's now, the ball's in your court. You've got the biblical base that you need to look after your health and wellness, and let's do something about it. And get excited about the fact that God is with you to help you change and grow and develop. He doesn't demand perfection from us. It's a journey that we're on. So that's sort of my top picks, spiritual tips. I'm sure the listeners can volunteer some other great ones too. And on the nutritional side, it's all about, are you eating and drinking to bring glory to the Lord in all that you do? And there in 1 Corinthians 10 verse 31, it says that we should eat and drink to the glory of the Lord. So we need to realize that we look at addictions, we think immediately of hard drugs, cigarettes, alcohol, etc. But food and drink and sugar is seriously addictive. So we really need to try and cut that out of our diet. And then we need to increase the protein, veggies, fruits, whole foods that we eat, and try and reduce the complex carbohydrates. Drink more water, and then, as I mentioned in a previous one, we've got those three levers. It's what you eat, when you eat, and how much you eat. And by getting a handle on those three and controlling those, you can actually do any diet fits into that, but controlling those will help you get your nutrition under control. And then we recommend that you, on the nutrition side, if you get professional advice, and we've got links there on our site to Althea Nell, who's a specialist in that area, and she can most certainly help. We mustn't forget that we are unique as individuals, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. So, that making mistakes, that comes back to what you were saying and about being prepared to experiment.
Right.
And if you are too scared to make mistakes, you're going to stay with what you are familiar.
Yeah.
And if you are not in a good space, then you know that what you've been doing to date is not beneficial. So
Yeah.
let's make those changes.
Yeah.
And then just to go through the physical tips, and hopefully we'll have some time for some questions and answers, is as you are aging on the physical side, your strength, mobility, and your range of motion become seriously the limiting factors to living an abundant and overcoming life. And they're the keys to enjoying life. So you really do need to do something about it. Just jumping ahead a little bit, we're talking about doing cardio on a daily basis, but cardio only has about a 10 to 15% effect on increasing your muscle mass. Resistance training has as much as 75 to 90% of an impact on gaining muscle mass. And muscle mass is largely key to having a strong and healthy immune system. So it's really important there. And then I want to recommend that people try something new. If they need to find something that they enjoy doing, and it's really never too late. I mentioned last week about that Sister Madonna Buda, who at 90 is still actively participating in triathlons.
Yeah, I remember that.
She only started at 48. So, yeah, there's a lot of life left in us if we look after our bodies and we do proactively care for them. And then I want to recommend that you set realistic short-term and long-term goals. Celebrate your small victories, and don't be unrealistic. Break a big task down into numerous small ones. So you don't lose 20 kilos overnight. You lose 1 kilo at a time, and celebrate that. So, you don't start out running a marathon. You start out running 1K, and slowly, through consistent effort, you will make those improvements. Find a group to train with, join a gym, get a training buddy to join you in your efforts if you need. And then you really need to have consistency, and you need to be determined and persevere. And then just quickly, if you are new to training, you should be doing one set of sort of 8 to 15 reps of a big variety of exercises. If you're intermediate, you can then step it up to doing about 3 sets, in other words, repetitive sets of the same exercise, also around 8 to 15 reps, and mainly compound exercises, so where you are doing things like squats and bench press and deadlift, which are working a lot of big muscle groups. And then as you progress to becoming an athlete or being more advanced, you can do up to 8 sets of a given exercise, also in that 8 to 15 rep range. And there you start doing a variety of exercises for one type of muscle that you're training.
Yeah, we're getting practical this morning, definitely.
I've run through all the tips as fast as we could, and now we are hoping that we'll have some questions that we can start answering people's specific requests.
I'm wondering if there's people, someone tuned in right now who might be wondering, they've already asked these questions, but they haven't actually verbalized them. Alec, specifically on the more practical side in terms of training and those type of things, I think it's quite a far-fetched idea for some people who want to start losing weight and they want to start improving their overall health span and lifestyle. We're sort of answering those questions in terms of the physical exercise things, right? For me, that's something that's a bit more, I don't want to say obvious, I don't want to use that word, but something that's a lot more practical in a sense, right? If you run a 5K, you're running a 5K, you're going to feel tired, you're going to feel like you're doing something with your body. I think something, and I'm glad that you pointed out so much as you did, the spiritual side of things, as you began the show today, about, just finding yourself in church once a week and not actually tending to that spiritual growth side. Are there any more thoughts you have perhaps on that side of things in terms of what people can fixate their eyes on in terms of spiritual growth, if they're finding it more on a practical thing, side of things?
Yeah, well, it's about cultivating a relationship with the Lord, and you can't do that successfully if you're only giving 1 hour odd a week to listen to a pastor gives a motivational message. And then by the time you've left church, you've forgotten what he had to say. You don't apply it to your life. So you really do need to try and build that relationship, and that takes time and effort. So an athlete doesn't perform in a race if he trains for an hour a week. He needs to train daily and put effort in daily. And by the more effort you put into it, the stronger you get in that regard.
Right, and I'm reminded of Galatians 5 verse 25, where it speaks about, since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. And that speaks directly into what you're saying this morning, Alec. We're also getting a message here on the WhatsApp line from Rihumile, who says, good morning, some lessons are costly and harsh because some mistakes could have long-lasting consequences. So I think that ties in exactly, her just weighing in on what you're speaking about change this morning, Alec. It ties in directly to what you've been saying over the past few weeks. When you reach perhaps the age of 40 or 50, and you only then start to realize, hang on a second, my life is not really in the way it should be in terms of my health. And by then, it's not too late.
No, it's never too late.
Yeah.
And people are very quick to try and look for and find excuses. So let me give you an example. With fasting, I'm going to save you time, I'm going to save you money, and I'm going to make you healthier. So if you start fasting, it doesn't take anything to do. It's really simple to do. Anybody can do it, and everybody will have beneficial benefits to their body from finding out how fasting can work to their benefit. So you don't need huge amounts of money or time or to actually make these changes to your lifestyle. And again, we're trying to instill a lifestyle change, not a quick fix, meet a goal, and then regress back to where you were.
Right.
So you didn't get out of shape and into bad health overnight.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get back in shape and into good health overnight.
Right.
You've got to work at it. It's a simple solution, but you've got to be consistent and you've got to persevere and stick with it. And you will most certainly reap the rewards from it. So your body starts reacting positively from the very first workout that you do. You start getting benefits.
Yeah, right. Okay, Alec, as we wrap up today's show, we're speaking mainly on that idea of change. You need to have an open mind and a teachable spirit, a willingness to take action and to experiment. So if you missed the show, you've only tuned in now sort of halfway, or as we've come to the end of the program, you can go ahead and listen to it once again, Impact Podcasts on our website, impactradio.co.za, and the video is also going to be up there on YouTube for you to have another listen back. Bianca says thank you, very encouraging. Alec, thank you so much for joining us once again in studio.
It's a pleasure, and the notes for today are downloadable off the almightywarrior.me website.
Great.
And we hope that many of you will take us up and make the change. Go to the website, find the course or the challenge that's appropriate for you, and let's improve your health so that you can bring glory to the Lord in all that you do and be of more service to those around you.
Yeah. Great stuff. Alec Avierinos from Almighty Warriors on yet another program of the Health and Wellness Show.